It's funny, since the full spoiler of Kaldheim being revealed, a lot of people had the opinion, no Oko Thief of Crowns, no Uro-like cards. Finally, Kaldheim is a fair set. Wizards of the Coast is powering things down. But after the cards got released, that was so far from the truth. Immediately on day 0, we had Cascade spells finding Tibalt's trickery into giant Eldrazi. And those Eldrazi completely wiped away huge chunks of the metagame. We're talking the Tron decks, both Eldrazi Tron, regular Tron, also the Titan decks, wiped away from the metagame because if you can't compete with a turn 3 Emrakul, what the hell you are doing in Modern? And you know what? It's happening again. Can we go 1 week without Modern being turned on its head? It appears Tibalt, the absolute shittiest planeswalker in the history of the game, has come for revenge, and he's coming in a big way. Let's welcome Tibalt, Cosmic Impostor. Everyone, this is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, and we have now a new archetype abusing the Cascade mechanic into gigantic threats. This deck simply wants to do one thing. It wants to use Violent Outburst or Demonic Dread to cascade into Valki, God of Lies, which is a lie. You don't really want the Valki part. You want the Tibalt Cosmic Impostor, because as the rules, as of today, I cannot promise for the future, but as of today, the rules state, if you cascade into a double-sided card, you have the option to flip it and cast the other side, even though the converted mana cost is way higher than the Cascade spell. Why we're allowing that to work, I don't know. It is very stupid. How long this will last? Pfft, your guess is as good as mine. And for the moment, right now, Modern is being completely overthrown by this combo. I mean, if you just analyze Tibalt Cosmic Impostor in the first place, it's a 7-mana Planeswalker starting off at 5 loyalty. And let me tell you, this is very reminiscent of Oko Thief of Crowns as a Planeswalker, very high on loyalty, very high on value, and also is very good at protecting itself. Now, the static ability says, as Tibalt enters the battlefield, you get an emblem with you may play cards exiled with Tibalt Cosmic Impostor, and you may spend mana as though it were any mana of any color to cast those spells. So when it says you can play the exiled cards, that also means you can play the lands. Now, if you look at the abilities, +2, exile the top card of each player's library. You have access to your opponent's library, you have access to your own library, so that is a lot of card advantage. -3, exile target artifact or creature. Basically, nothing is getting in the way of Tibalt Cosmic Impostor. And after you +2, I mean, you can exile 2 creatures back to back for 2 turns, and also has the ultimate -8 exile all cards from all graveyards, add 3 red mana. So maybe you have a really big turn here, but I don't even think it ever has to even get down to that. This is an overwhelming threat to have on the battlefield so early in the game. I mean, the Tibalt's Trickery combo, that's old news. No one wants to play that Tibalt Trickery combo. That deck is gone. Now people want to play the Tibalt Cosmic Impostor deck. People want to play the Impostor deck. And if you want to be on top of the Modern metagame, you got to check this thing out. Also, Jund players out there, if you're done with losing with Tarmogoyf and you want to start winning, you might want to look at this deck. Yeah, I know we don't exactly have the same creature or spell base as the other sort of Jund deck, but you get to keep the mana base. Look, Blackcleave Cliffs, Blood Crypt, Forest, Classic Forest, Overgrown Tomb, Swamp. All your friends Verdant Catacombs. These are all the usual suspects in that deck. You want to play a Jund deck that can actually win, you're going to want to check out this list. This list went 4-0 in a Magic the Gathering Online preliminary event. And boy, is it a powerhouse. Now, the deck is completely built so that there is nothing you can cascade into, basically, except Valki, God of Lies. The 2 main cascade spells, Violent Outburst, which can be played at instant speed, also gives your creatures +1/+0. Don't forget about that. That's very important, ladies and gentlemen. And also Demonic Dread. Target creature can't block this turn. Also a relevant ability sometimes. But you cascade directly into the Valki, God of Lies. Everything else is 3 CMC or higher. So the deck might seem a little clunky at first, but between Gemstone Caverns, where you can put this in play on the draw step, and basically be 1 mana ahead by your first turn. And also Dismember, which technically costs 3 mana, but you can spend as much as 1 mana in order to start interacting very immediately into the game. And Simian Spirit Guide, ramping for those turn 2 bomb turns. Simian Spirit Guide, I mean, didn't I say not too long ago that if there are enough Simian Spirit Guide decks in the metagame, we're going to start looking at banning this card? And this seems to be a sign of bullshit decks in the modern metagame. I mean, if you've got a Simian Spirit Guide in the deck, chances are that is a fucking bullshit deck to be seeing in modern. I don't see Simian Spirit Guide being played in a really fair manner. It's always in combo decks, or it's always in super degenerate nonsense. So what nonsense are we up to? All right, let's start off by talking about Magus of the Moon. It's not the only moon in this deck. We also have Blood Moon. These are 1-card combos, and you better believe that even against decks like Uro, if you can get a turn 2 moon effect onto the battlefield, it's just GG right there. They're a 4-color deck. They're 3 to 4 color decks. Some of them don't even use the red mana. What if they're a Sultai Uro deck? They're fucked. It's over. That turn 1 Triome, that is... You're so happy to see turn 1 Triumph. You go on your turn, Simian Spirit Guide, Magus of the Moon, GG. Thank you very much for coming out. Can't force and negate this thing. Yeah, that's a $100 card as of the talking of this video. And it's only going to get more expensive as people need to combat cards like Tibalt, Cosmic Impostor. But Magus of the Moon is a card that can get around those counter spells and also just completely shut down a lot of the decks. If like... Basically, right now in the modern metagame, you're playing with Blood Moons or you're getting crushed by Blood Moons. Even the older Tibalt's Trickery deck is completely soft to a moon effect. It's like basically a 5-color deck. You basically put a Magus of the Moon or a Blood Moon in play. They can't cast their cards. They can't cast Violent Outburst, Demonic Dread. They need color mana for that. They need the black. They need the green. If they're going to try to play Ardent Plea, they need white or blue. They cannot win through a Magus of the Moon. So Magus of the Moon is a 1-card win condition by itself, comboed out by Simian Spirit Guide or Gemstone Caverns, ramping it onto the battlefield. Easy wins with just that card. Murderous Rider. I can only imagine this card is not only good as a body, but most importantly, you can destroy planeswalkers. So if you're in the Tibalt mirror, you actually have something to combat against another Tibalt Cosmic Impostor. 3 mana, destroy your Tibalt, and then maybe try to get back into the game. Seasoned Pyromancer, you know what? This is just good value. It's basically, you know, it is in some ways maybe even the upgrade to Faithless Looting, because it is so good but not so good enough to get banned. Therefore you can still play with this card. Oh, Bloodbraid Elf. Now Bloodbraid Elf, if you can Bloodbraid Elf into the Cascade spell, into the Valki God of Lies to find your Tibalt Cosmic Impostor, I mean, that is a dopamine rush. I mean, it's just as pleasant and as enjoyable as watching some of those domino videos for like 10 minutes on Facebook. This is also a chain of events that would get even someone like Vince McMahon to fall out of his chair. But even if you don't Bloodbraid Elf into like a Cascade spell into Valki God of Lies, you can still Cascade into a lot of really good cards. Magus of the Moon and Blood Moon have the potential to completely shut the opponent down. You could find a removal spell in the form of Dismember. You could end up finding your Seasoned Pyromancer draw a billion more cards. Works really well in the red-green Ponza deck. Definitely is going to work in this deck. Find Murderous Rider. Do you need to kill a creature or planeswalker, or do you need a 2/3 creature with lifelink on the battlefield? You choose. Anger the Gods, for everyone out there who's not playing this deck and not playing an Uro deck, that's basically what Anger the Gods is for. You can be signing that in against all the fools who are not like getting with the meta game. You're not bringing that in against the Tibalt's Trickery Emrakul deck, that's for sure. You got Maelstrom Pulse, an all-around answer to all permanents. Remember, these cards have to be 3 CMC or higher, or they're going to get hit by the Cascade spell. Your Demonic Dreads and Violent Outbursts always want to find a Valki God of Lies. I'm sure there's a lot of people in the comment section. They're already recommending other cards, like why not Abrupt Decay? Why not Assassin's Trophy? They got to be 3 CMC or higher, or this deck's engine isn't going to work nearly as well. For Leyline of the Void, excellent way of dealing with the graveyard decks, basically for free, opening if it's in your opening hand. You could even conceivably cast this in the later game. We are in the Jund colors. Mindbreak Trap, skyrocketing in value online. If you don't know what this card is, it's a double blue 2 generic instant trap. If an opponent casts 3 or more spells this turn, you may pay 0 rather than pay Mindbreak Trap's mana cost. Exile any number of target spells. The time for this card has finally come because against the Tibalt's Trickery deck, they are casting exactly 3 spells. That's right. They go Cascade spell into Tibalt's Trickery, into Emrakul. Okay, sure, you can cast that Emrakul or whatever, but it's going to get exiled off the stack. It's like a super counter spell here. And this is the 1-card answer to all the Tibalt's Trickery decks being held in check, because you can easily beat them with counter spells. That is the bane of their existence. And we're going to talk about how this deck can defeat those decks. Magmatic Sinkhole, just a 1-have. It has red and 5 generic Delve. Can deal 5 damage to target creature or Planeswalker. And so, well, why would you want to play this deck over the Tibalt's Trickery Emrakul deck? That deck's a fucking slot machine, all right? If you want to spin I mean, there's 2 versions of the deck. You can have the one with very few Cascade spells, because they go into one Tibalt's Trickery into an Emrakul that's guaranteed 91% of the time. But the problem is those decks are so fragile to the counter spells. 1 counter spell, and the deck's fucked. It's gone. It's over. It is a goner. And what's the #1 deck in Modern? Uro decks. The best deck in Modern is Uro decks. They have millions of counter spells. Remand, Archmage's Charm, Force of Negation, Cryptic Command, Mana Leak. You ain't getting through that fucking shit. That deck can't basically beat counter spells for shit. And then you get into the other Tibalt Trickery decks, where they're playing with tons of Cascade spells, tons of Eldrazi, tons of big creatures, but it's a slot machine. Maybe you get to that big creature, maybe you don't. Maybe you don't even get to the real big fatty that you wanted to get in the first place, and your opponent just kills it because it's not an Emrakul that gave them an extra turn. It's random. This deck is not nearly as random, and the threats can keep coming. Like, if you don't have a Cascade spell in your hand, that's okay. Maybe you have a Magus of the Moon. That's going to beat most of the decks in the Modern format anyway. Maybe you just cast Valki God of Lies. Look at your opponent's hand. Steal that Uro from them. Next turn, play your 3rd land. Turn your Valki God of Lies into an Uro Titan of Nature's Wrath. Attack for 6. Gain 3 life. Draw a card. Put an extra land on the battlefield. What's wrong with that? This deck can play a very good fair game too. Did I mention that this deck plays 8 moon effects? 8 moon effects! This is probably the 3rd time I'm reminding you that this deck can screw people over by turn 2. I mean, Humans is coming back into the meta game. They're going to go like turn 1, Champion of the Parish off of a Cavern of Souls. Turn 2, Magus of the Moon. Fuck your deck. It's dead. It's gone. You have like basically no mono red creatures, and the game is over. And these moon effects come out very consistently by turn 2, thanks to Simeon's Spirit Guide and the Gemstone Caverns. And of course, the deck has a ton of grind between Seasoned Pyromancer for more card advantage and Bloodbraid Elf, not only a threat by herself, but also cascades into another threat. So unlike these other gimmicky combo decks, this one is pretty damn powerful. Even if you had a Tibalt Cosmic Impostor on the battlefield, you somehow answered that thing, this deck can come back. And also, every Cascade spell represents another Tibalt Cosmic Impostor. So you deal with one Tibalt Cosmic Impostor, and then I just Demonic Dread into another Valki God of Lies and do the same damn thing over again. And then if you somehow deal with that one, I've got another Tibalt Cosmic Impostor on the way. Anyone's gonna crack under that pressure. It's like you're at a party and you go use the washroom and you clog the toilet. Okay, no big deal. Where's the plunger? But you can't find it. All you see is that stupid white brush. Suddenly people are banging on the door saying, you know, what's going on? I gotta use the washroom, hurry up. And now you're under the gun. What are you gonna do? You're gonna jump out the window? Now, it's very important to know that this is not the first time we've seen a combo deck as nonsense like this before. A long time ago, you were able to abuse expertise cards with fuse cards, and it allowed you to play both sides of the card at once. So what you could do is expertise into something like breaking and entering, allowing you to potentially put an Emrakul from your graveyard onto the battlefield and attack your opponent for like 1 billion damage. Now, that combo is way more docile to what we have today, and that's why I do not expect this type of archetype to stand the test of time, because very easily, without banning any cards, they could just make a rules change. Very likely this rules change will happen, where the Cascade mechanic will only be allowed to put the half of a double-sided card that has converted mana cost less than the Cascade card onto the battlefield, negating anything that has a higher converted mana cost. Like, for fuck's sakes, this cascading into Tibalt's Cosmic Impostor just won a Legacy challenge. This is a Legacy power combo that just won a huge tournament. And if you want to wield the power of Legacy in Modern without losing all your money, you're going to want to rent this deck off Mana Traders, the premier place to rent Magic cards online. When you rent cards, you can play any bullshit deck this game has to offer, without the risk of losing all your money when a card gets banned or a rule change that completely negates the deck. That way, Wizards doesn't fuck you over. Mana Traders gets fucked over. In fact, Mana Traders loves getting fucked by Wizards of the Coast for you. And you can rent this deck today by using the deck list link I have provided in the description below, and you can save 15% off your first 3 months using my coupon code Nikachu. Simian Spirit Guide players, call your lawyers, because you're going to have a hell of a time defending yourself out of this one.